from a slower speed going north, it really doesn't warrant traffic calming on this street. In fact, it would be a precedent set. I mean, you couldn't keep up that precedence all over town. There's a lot worse situations, and so we didn't find any warrants for any traffic calming on this road for that other one. And I think Steve has some things to share too, but I just wanted to add that. So.
We found people were speeding, going 55 miles an hour on that short stretch of roadway that Chris talked about that says we don't need any calming devices. I'm just kidding. We did.
I wasn't driving on that road.
We really briefly, we did send a half a dozen officers out in that area. They found that Chris is right, that the yield signs are slowing people down to under 20 miles an hour going around the corner and then through the intersection. There was one car while they were there that was speeding, but all the rest of them were going slow. Now we've got a cop car there, so people are going to see the cop car and they're going to slow down. So we have had the traffic trailer there. That data has yet to be collected, but that will, I think, can just confirm what Chris has told us as well as what our officers observed.
Anything on Center?
On Center Street, we have yet to put a trailer there. We have it in, we had two other higher priority areas, and our intent is to get on that one when we're done with these other two areas.
So the trailer will have that green light?
No, the trailer.
tells them when to start.
What's really nice about the trailer, it collects the data about the time, the speed, the direction, and it gives us a pretty good evaluation of what's really happening there. Like I said, if a cop car is parked there, then we act differently. So.
Perfect.
Also, one other item to bring before the council. On Thursday, it is the mayor's birthday, and I think it would be appropriate for all of us to sing happy birthday to him.
I think so too.
I think you ought to give us a
don't
pitch
think so.
there, Stacy.
Oh, no.
No, I don't think it's a good idea.
All right, well, I think we should sing happy
That's
birthday to
for
him
once, I
anyways.
agree with Shane.
So are you guys comfortable
today,
joining in
Mayor?
and singing happy birthday to the mayor? This is the last time we'll get at the council meeting. Happy birthday to you. Not a death march. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear mayor. Happy birthday to you. That's all I have.
Wow. Thank you.
That was Ken.
Thank you for that wonderful resounding song. I appreciate it, and I appreciate all the good wishes. Okay, let's go to Spanish Fork 101, River Bottoms TDR video presentation, Dave.
Thank you, Mayor, for tonight. I'll be quick. The River Bottoms is a special place. It's special for the people that live there. It's special for people that farm there. It's special for people that own property there. And it's special for people that live in the community that surround it. And with that in mind, you know, we've done quite a bit of work over the course of the past few years relative to trying to understand what the best path might be for the River Bottoms' future. And let's watch a video that's been referenced earlier tonight about a particular proposal that the city's been working on for about the last year.
Spanish Fork has long been known as an agricultural community. In 1850, the first settler claimed land in the area and soon after populated it with cattle. Since then, the area has grown its roots in agriculture. The first Utah County Livestock Show was held in 1925, with 3 livestock auctions and agrarian-centered businesses opening in the town thereafter. These farms and businesses not only had an economic impact on the residents of the area, they've had a cultural impact as well. The agricultural landscape, complete with open fields and pastoral landscapes, has strongly influenced the city's sense of place and identity.
I'm in the middle of one of the most beautiful places in our community,
affectionately known as the river bottoms. These 1,800 acres are home to farmland that has been worked for more than 170 years. The river bottoms represents the natural and agrarian heritage of Utah County and provides an opportunity for the community to preserve a piece of its heritage.
Areas with the river bottoms' beauty and access to amenities are rare along the Wasatch Front. For those and many other reasons, the river bottoms has increasingly felt the pressures to change, largely being driven by the tremendous demand for housing in the region. This pressure is exactly why I feel responsible as a council member to do what I can to help preserve this area for future generations to enjoy.
That's why this project has become so important for Spanish Fork City. In order to solve these issues, the city has developed a two-part plan. First, the plan would protect and preserve the river bottoms while protecting the property rights of landowners. Second, the plan encourages development in places in the community that make sense, like downtown or around transit plans. Spanish Fork City believes a unique tool is needed in order to satisfy these diverse desires. This tool is called Transferable Development Rights. Transferable Development Rights, or TDRs, provide a path for Spanish Fork to preserve the river bottoms, provide monetary compensation to property owners, and direct development to appropriate areas in Spanish Fork. The Land Use Academy of Utah has prepared a short video to help explain the concept.
What is a TDR? It's not a new app for your phone. It means a transferable development right. A TDR authorizes, by ordinance, a landowner to transfer the right to develop and use land in one area to another property owner somewhere else. There must be specific sending zones to transfer or send those rights to a designated receiving zone. Communities in Utah, by ordinance, can choose to adopt TDRs as a tool in their planning efforts. Communities use TDRs to achieve goals like more public open space in one part of town or more development, or economic growth in another, all without taxing the general public. TDRs give communities a tool to move development potential from areas they may want to preserve, the sending zones, to areas where growth is desired, the receiving zone. The bottom line. This is a policy choice that Utah's communities can make to use to direct growth. But you must have an ordinance to do so, and you must have specifically designated areas that you can send and receive these land use rights. Be sure to read the code on this one.
The Spanish Fork program is planned to follow 4 guiding principles. Participation must be voluntary. TDR values must be market-driven. Ample opportunity to sell development rights. And consideration for future maintenance and care. Like other TDR programs, specific sending and receiving areas would be defined. The sending area would be the river bottoms, and the receiving areas would be located throughout the community, where the city can more easily accommodate residential growth. The process property owners would follow to participate in the program is intended to be simple, straightforward, and clear. Here's how it would work. First, a property owner would meet with city staff to determine how many transferable development rights they are eligible to receive. This determination is made based on established formulas and the characteristics of individual properties. If the property owner decides they would like to participate, their next step would be to ask the city to create TDR certificates for their property. These certificates then become the commodity that the property owners could sell to a developer. Additionally, a conservation easement would be created to make it clear that the property cannot be developed. With the certificates in hand, property owners are able to negotiate with potential buyers at their leisure. When the certificates are purchased by a developer and the development of the receiving property is approved, the TDRs have served their purpose.
Utah law expressly allows for the use of transferable development rights as a way to balance the rights and opportunities people have to develop with communities' goals to preserve specific areas like the river bottoms.
One of the key goals of the program is to encourage continual agricultural operations in the river bottoms. For that reason, special attention will be given to allow for caretaker and posterity homes, the ongoing maintenance of land. the protection of agricultural accesses, and notices about farmers' rights to continue to farm.
What I like about the TDR program is that this creates a way to preserve the land, its beauty and use, but also provides for growth in our community, and we as landowners can be part of both solutions. Our family has worked this land for 3 generations, but our children really don't have the desire to follow in our footsteps. This plan creates the way for us to get value out of our property without losing the farm. We're all for growth and progress, but not at the cost of losing this beautiful area. With a TDR, we can get a fair value from this property without ruining it.
I like the idea of preserving the natural beauty of the river bottoms. That's one of the appealing reasons for people wanting to move to Spanish Fork. The TDR program gives me a way to be a part of that while giving me some advantages in my projects. I think it's a big win-win.
With the Transferable Development Rights Program, it's really a win-win-win. Landowners receive real value for their property without losing it. Developers get an incentive to develop in areas outside of the river bottoms. And Spanish Fork continues to grow and provide the best hometown experience anywhere. I love my regular walks down this river trail. It's a peaceful reminder of how great we have it here in Spanish Fork. The TDR concept will preserve this beauty while honoring the interests and desires of so many people in our community. Let's work together in preserving our past and planning for our future.
A lot of effort went into what was just described in that video, and I really appreciate the number of people that helped with that. And to that end as well, nothing's set in stone. Okay, we have a proposal that we've shared with a number of different people in different ways. Basically, anybody that would give us airtime and that would listen. We've received a lot of input, and yet we know that there are questions that are out there. To that end, like the mayor said, we're planning on doing what likely I think are going to be a number of different things. Again, to try to answer questions, to share information about what we've been working on, and as well to get people's thoughts. Like I said, nothing's set in stone today. I do think that what we are sharing with the community now has been refined considerably. A lot of effort's gone into getting to where we are now. Tuesday the 24th, I believe 11 o'clock a.m. is when we'll have kind of our next conversation about this program and the river bottom. Certainly invite everybody on the council to tune into that, community at large. In addition to that, we have a web page that's devoted to the topic. We'll put more detailed information on that, and understand that we'll likely have some type of an opportunity available via that web page for people to share thoughts, comments, concerns, ask questions, and to do that type of a thing over the course of the next, whatever it takes, matter of weeks, months, whatever it might be, to have you as the council ultimately be comfortable taking a step forward, adopting a program, not adopting a program, or just doing whatever you think's best at this point. And the last thought that I have kind of pertains to that and any things that you'd like us to do. Again, kind of in the spirit of next steps and, gaining a certain level of comfort in terms of deciding as to whether or not this is the right thing to do or not. Please feel free, reach out to me. I'd love to talk that through. I'm going to be relying really heavily on Nick Porter as well as we talk about the process and the best way to go about making sure that we've considered as much as we possibly can with something that's as important as this. Personally, I don't think there really is much that's as important relative to future quality of life for people in and around Spanish Fork as what we're working on here. So it's a big deal. I appreciate your time tonight, very much so, and would love to talk more about it as you guys might want to.
One question. I participate in this and get the certificates, sell my certificates, and then say I sell my farm ground. I can still do that, correct?
Short answer is yes. That's absolutely the intent.
But that would, the continuation of the non-development would continue to the next owner of that property, correct?
Yes.
Always.
So maybe
Because
just to
someone
not
got
leave
paid.
that stone unturned, maybe just go a little bit deeper, I think, with what you're asking. The basic concept of a transferable development right is that you have land, and as government entities assign certain opportunities for people to use that land, different development rights, you might separate the land from a development right and be able to, in a case like this, sell this potentially. So that would be used on property elsewhere. So as a property owner, you could look at it as if I might have two different rights. I own land that has value and I have the right to use it in a certain way. Just because I sell the right to use it in a certain way, that doesn't change the fact that I would own the land. And that has value still, frankly, less value, right? As the ability to use it in a more limited way, conceivably forever, is really the intent. And I think that's the bottom line for your question. As that becomes a reality, then the value absolutely is impacted negatively. The land is worth less than it was before, but still there are opportunities to use the land in different ways. We see land sold throughout the world for agricultural purposes, and that's basically what, if the program were to be implemented as it's written today, that's what property owners would be left with, is agricultural land, and I assume the land would be valued that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Good, and a lot of this will be answered. We'll have an opportunity, anybody that wants to call you and talk to you, meantime, we'll have that Facebook Live, and you can talk about any questions you got there.
Can I ask Dave?
Sorry, Dave. One thing I think would be helpful, this isn't going to be something that is decided on Facebook. That's just one of our means of communicating and educating. There is a process where we have to follow lots of steps, actually. And first, maybe most importantly, none of the land in this area is in the city at the moment, and so we don't have any legal jurisdiction over the land anyway. But Dave, if you could maybe outline the timeline that you see for some of the public meetings that we'll have, so the council knows. I mean, we may not hit them all because of certain meetings. You may say, let's take longer on this or that, but give us a sense of what that timetable is.
I'll give the easy answer there, which is not before October. So acting on the program the way that it's written now would require you to amend your zoning code. And before we do that, there is public notice provided for public hearings for both Planning Commission and City Council meetings. So depending on maybe how things are received by you and the rest of the community over the course of the next several weeks, perhaps in October, you might want us to move forward with the process to present this to the Planning Commission in their meeting, to hold a public meeting then, and maybe to hold a public hearing in the Planning Commission meeting in October, and then perhaps likewise to have a public hearing in your second meeting in October, which, if we get to that point and you've gone through the process to give proper notice and to hold those hearings, at that point in time, you as the council could act however you'd care to. Meaning it could be adopted then as it is, or with changes, again, however you'd care to see it put into play. Then in October, you might choose to delay that, wait until November or December. You might direct us to wait until November, December as well to go through that formal process of having public hearings. Those are some of the types of things that I hope to maybe get some guidance and direction from you on. Perhaps that comes to me via the city manager or something like that. But I don't want personally to be presumptuous about what process you want us to go through from here to whatever the finish line might be. But again, things like having a Facebook Live event, frankly, I think, and some of the things that Nick and I have talked about, just maybe making ourselves as staff available for a couple of afternoons for people to come in and ask questions and to talk things through. Maybe there are other forums that are akin to Facebook Live where we're both able to answer questions and to receive input. Different mediums like websites, different things like that that are almost getting old-fashioned now, but can be really good ways to, again, have a conversation with people. I think as much as anything, we don't want anybody to be surprised about what the city's trying to do or how we're trying to do it. That certainly hasn't been our MO to date. And providing as many opportunities for people to become educated as they can be. And likewise, as much as we're maybe providing thoughts and suggestions to you, us becoming educated to help you likewise understand all of the different details and feelings and perceptions and suggestions as well. And as always, we welcome whatever thoughts or ideas anybody might have about how to improve upon what we're working on here. Hopefully that's done in kind of the underlying spirit of whether it's a TDR kind of a mechanism or anything else, the direction that I feel like we've received very loudly and clearly from a large community of a lot of different stakeholders is to do something to try to help keep the river bottoms as much like it is now as we possibly can. So in as much as anybody has any thoughts or ideas on how to make that happen, I think we'd be wise to take as much input on that as we can get.
Did you have a question, Shay?
Yeah, Seth kind of cut me, but that's good.
Get used to that.
We're thinking a lot alike, and it's scaring me a little bit. Just big picture process in my head, Dave. For several years, we've taken discussion, we've studied, we've thought about what to do down there. You have come to a point where you have a proposal written, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Something tangible to be a part of this.
Right.
So now you're going to share that with everybody, Facebook Live, whatever medium you're going to do. Let that out there, let people pick it apart, let us pick it apart, do whatever. Then there will be a proposal in front of a future city council, a future planning commission, with a public hearing, and then another public hearing with the city council. That's generally the process we have yet to go through, correct? Okay.
Spot on, as I see it.
Just trying to, in my head, how this works out. I'm not, timing-wise,
Yeah.
we do need to figure that out, but just, there's a lot of work left. A lot of opportunity for comments, a lot of opportunity for discussion. Fair?
Important, fair and important, I would say, yes.
Okay. I think to this point, it's been such a nebulous thing. Just discussion has been happening, but now we have something in front of us to say, does this work or not? Strike this line, add this line. Now it's time to, you have a menu, let's digest the menu and make some comments on it.
I don't see us progressing at all, but for taking some next step that's different than where we've been at for the past several months.
Exactly.
Really,
We need something on paper.
We need to go forward.
With right, wrong,
somehow.
and different, we need something on paper. And now that's where we're at.
Yep.
My question is, if you're as far enough along that if we were discussing my dad's farm out in Lake Shore, and I said, all right, the 45 acres that he's on, can you help me get to how many TDRs that would equal? You know, as we've got a handful of these residents here, if they wanted to meet with you or staff and say, okay, this is my land that we're talking about, you know, what does this really mean? And could you really help them get to a, number so that everybody can see a clear picture of what that means for everybody separately? Does that make sense, what I'm asking?
We could get to a precise number right now.
Okay.
With what is spelled out in draft form. And in all candor, I think the numbers, kind of the formula, is critical for the success of what we're trying to do here. If there's any part of it that I think probably warrants, maybe some fine tuning, a different look, perspective, anything like that at all, that's probably it. What you're talking about now, as much as we have dozens and dozens of pages that have been prepared by consultants, legal counsel, us as planning staff, about the program and how it would work and that type of a thing, people tend to zero in on what does it mean for me, both potentially as an owner of property in the river bottoms that might be selling rights to somebody else, and likewise people in other parts of the community that might be looking to develop and wanting to know, okay, so what might this mean for me? If I can strike a deal, so to speak, with somebody in the river bottoms and purchase rights, can that work for me? How would it work? What does that look like? All of those different questions, which part of why I feel like this is a point, where we need to progress. We're having conversations at both ends of that, or each end of that spectrum now. People with development interest that have heard about what we're doing and that are really inquisitive about how they might be able to use transferred development rights, and likewise property owners are very concerned about what this means for them, so.
But up to this point, it was a bunch of what ifs. What if we did this and what if we did this? Now you can take that policy, and to Councilmember Gordon's point, walk it all the way through and say, if we use this piece of paper or this document, this is what would happen.
With precision,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's just numbers, right? So that
Right.
part's really easy to quantify and define.
One last thought I had the other night was we have areas in town where farmers farm, but they're able to use our pressurized irrigation. These farmers hold a very valuable water right with their ground as well. What if we looked at opportunities as far as putting in infrastructure to run the pressurized irrigation as they farmed in the future? Has that been brought up before?
That specifically, no, but the need to make sure that water's still available in the river bottoms long-term, that's pretty critical, given the idea that keeping the river bottoms like it is now involves making farming into the future as viable as we possibly can. So, I mean, that might be a
Gives them-
suggestion, the type of thing that we're looking for now.
Gives them an opportunity to maybe do something with that share if they're able to purchase a pressurized irrigation water. That would be up to them, but, anyway, another
While
thought that I had.
ensuring that water's available perpetually.
Yeah, we know how valuable
Just
that some- product is, right? The water shares, so, okay, just some thoughts that I've had. Thanks.
Mayor, can I ask one question?
If it's a short one, as long as we don't,
One
it's,
short one. I just wonder if there's any time before all this takes place or in the near future, when they are going to meet with all of the landowners, not just a certain specific few, but all of us.
So I'll repeat her question,
Sorry.
Mrs. Ellsworth.
Chris.
Ellsworth. And this is not a public hearing. I think, to be fair to the world, I think it'd be important not to make this a public hearing. Again, this is just an informational session for you. And really, my question for you as a council, the direction I've asked Dave to get from you is, are we ready to move forward? We've spent a lot of years now, probably 2 years longer in this process than I would have liked. But it seems like it's time to move forward, or, abandon, if you will. And so I'm looking for that direction from you. Dave's presented just the initial video, and you've been involved in and are aware of all the work that's gone on, and we're going to proceed forward with studying the process in the formal sense, right, in presenting the process and in reviewing it with the Planning Commission, reviewing it with the City Council. To Mrs. Ellsworth's question, she asked again, when will we meet with the homeowners? We've had literally over the last handful of years, a dozen meetings or so with homeowners in different settings. I'm not sure if she was invited to, or if she made it to some of them or all of them. At this moment, I am not inclined to recommend that we have a large group meeting with just one group. There isn't, I don't think, anything more that we can gain from that kind of a setting. We've been able to harvest as much information as we can get. The comments and concerns that were expressed tonight are not new to us, and have all been considered, whether they like the direction we're going to go or the direction we're going to propose. That certainly remains to be seen. But we've collected as much information as we can from all the different parties. We're happy to and continue, would welcome any interactions with the Ellsworths or any other families and landowners. But getting everybody together, quite frankly, has become quite an emotional setting, and I don't think it's wonderfully productive. And I think it creates maybe even more derision or division amongst different groups. And so I don't know that I would recommend doing that. If you want us to do that, and if you want to be a part of that, we certainly can do that. One of the next best forums would be to have the proposals, present them at length, review them, have public hearings on them, and invite all involved landowners, all different stakeholders, et cetera, to participate in that public process. We did a lot of research on this, as I said, from the beginning, in doing surveys of specific groups, landowners, residents, developers, and just different groups, and we've try to get all that information in some compartmentalized fashion so we can identify the issues of each of the stakeholder groups and blend them together. Not everybody's going to like everything, but hopefully there is some value there. So we'd like to move forward with formally noticing, educating, and then reviewing with the Planning Commission and the City Council from this point forward.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's move on then. Let's move on to the consent items.
Motion to approve the consent items.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing, ordinance Z15-21, Slim Chickens, proposed zone change from R16 to C2 with the development enhancement overlay.
Once again, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The subject property on this is located on the southeast corner of 400 East and 1000 North. There are two homes there on 10th North. I think they're the last two single-family homes on the south side there of the roadway. And the proposal tonight involves those two properties. You can see from this that they are still zoned residential. So one part of the proposal would have that zoning changed from R16 to Commercial 2 to allow for the proposed use, which is a quick-serve restaurant with a drive-through that'd be located there on that site. And the other part of the proposal has to do with potentially, if you're comfortable with it, employing a particular zoning overlay, the development enhancement overlay, on the subject properties so that the proposed development could deviate from a couple of our typical zoning requirements, a setback requirement and a particular landscape width requirement. If you, and maybe Nick, if you can go to one of the site plan images for us. I'm on page 1 of Exhibit 3, maybe yeah. So this might help you see what we're talking about in terms of, for example, where we typically would require a certain amount of landscaping along 10th North, and likewise a certain amount of landscaping consistently along a property line where a commercial use shares a boundary with a residential use. Given the unique configuration of the property and its depth, in order to be able to site the building with the parking being configured the way that we as staff thinks it would work the best, having the best queuing for the drive-throughs and different things like that.
You think that's with it? I thought he was in Texas.
We think it's appropriate to allow this particular business to have a little less landscaping. I believe it's 4 feet less than what our standard otherwise would require along 10th North, and to have a small area right here that would only have a foot or two of landscaping where typically 10 feet's required on the south edge. So that being said, both the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission have recommended that both the proposed change to the C2 zone and the use of the development enhancement overlay be approved. I understand that if the zone change is approved tonight by the City Council, the applicants are fairly eager to get started on the development of the site, which, given conversations we've had with other potential users of properties along 10th North over the years, I think it's very consistent with what we had anticipated seeing at this particular location. And that's where we're at.
One entrance, one exit.
2, and kind of 3 even. So they will be able to access the site from here, coming in this way.
Oh, so they'll share with Discount?
They'll share with that, and they have a connection through Discount Tire. I need to take that back too. I was thinking that this was designed to connect as well. Here and here, those are their 2 points of access.
Block fence around these apartments?
Correct, yes, so there will be a block wall on that property line there, or a masonry wall.
And those are apartments or a house?
This is a duplex.
Yeah, okay.
So, and you You may not know. My understanding is they're going to do some remodeling here to move this farther away from the corner, so the congestion here. Am I jumping?
What they plan to do here won't have any impact on the corner and congestion. Now, what these folks will do, that will allow for the development of a right-hand turn lane here.
Another lane there.
So that will help to some degree
That intersection there.
with any,
That right-hand turn is not there now?
I don't believe so.
To through
There's only one.
It's
Oh, it's a through lane.
it's a through and right.
Dave, will you clarify again, like where the in and out areas are?
Right here. Trying to think of, if you could just picture, and maybe Nick, I don't know how long it would take to pull up maybe Google Earth, but we could look at that. The southern boundary of the property here, and the existing drive here would remain, and they would simply access the site. At that
Okay, we
spot.
might have some more questions after the public hearing.
Great.
And so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are now in the public hearing. Anyone that'd like to come and talk about this proposal, you're welcome to come on up here. Just state your name and you get your 3 minutes of fame.
Hello, my name is Cody Williams. I'm the design engineer on this project, and did a great job presenting. I don't think I have really too much to add, other than we still are providing 10 feet of landscaping on 400 West, which is the current requirement. We are dedicating quite a bit of right-of-way on this project. The 400 West, of course, as you said earlier, we're getting a right turn lane in on that road, which of course increased traffic flow there. And also, this isn't our current iteration. We've worked quite a bit with Mike Clark in the engineering department, very extensively to work with the transportation engineer as well to refine this design. We have actually dedicated more property along 1000 North to allow for a problem that Mike had brought up, where people on 1000 North are trying to make U-turns at this location. And currently, as designed, an F-150 can't make a U-turn there without having to do a two-point turn. So we've increased the lane, traffic lane width there on 1000 North. Again, just making it more drivable. And we've tried to connect in with Discount Tire to eliminate, multiple entry points. We have shared drive access, just helping out traffic flow, trying to do the best we can. But yeah, any other questions as far as design related, I'd be happy to answer.
So would the Chevrolet Silverado make that turn?
Absolutely.
Right, that's what I was wanted to hear. I figured right. Thank you. Anyone else like to come and talk? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal and a second by Councilman Mendenhall. Okay, any other questions or comments about this property?
Transportation, I have to say something, right?
You don't have to.
Have
but-
to, Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, so during the planning commission, they talked a lot about this access off of 10th. You can see in their plans, they developed that right turn lane about, I don't know, what, 3/4 away into the property, so right there. That green is super bright, I can't see it. The justification for leaving this section out further into 10th was landscaping.
Exactly, yeah.
Is that consistent around down 10th? That landscaping buffer, is that consistent down 10th?
As much as we've been able to get some there, and everything's really been a site-specific
Okay.
kind of a fit. So if you look at Quick Quack, you can even see from this image a little bit that there's some landscaping on each side of the sidewalk. I think one thing that we really want to avoid, particularly on a road like 10th North, is that combination curb, sidewalk right next to the curb type of a thing.
Can you get that in this section when it turns into a turn lane? Is it
That's
just
what
back to
goes
back?
away, yeah.
There's no
I don't
sod
believe
or
there is. I
anything.
can take a closer look at that, and maybe you can clarify, but the curb and the sidewalk join at that
They're
point.
contiguous at the right turn lane.
I'd like to have that back. I think that we're going to miss an opportunity to gain that third lane because we want landscaping here.
Well, one option to that end would be simply to have them dedicate adequate right-of-way. To dedicate adequate right-of-way so that if we ever did want to expand in the future, we could. And for as long as it would function the way it's designed now, we could,
It's a pretty cheap solution in the future as long as we own the right-of-way.
the right-of-way is the tricky part, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if the applicant would have any concerns about, I think we're looking for a road dedication plat with this, so that would be reflected in that document, and that could be another condition of approval.
I think my only concern is like landscaping with that duplex right behind it. Is there anything we can do to make a little bit of a buffer so they're not looking right down onto asphalt in a restaurant?
Well, the buffer's a little bit, I don't want to say misleading. I think having the landscaping there is important. I think it serves a number of different purposes. But where you already have a 6-foot masonry wall and the landscaping is going to be on the business side of it, I think it has maybe less value
Okay.
than if it were landscaping adjacent to the duplex and then the wall on the other side.
But you said normally there's 10 feet of landscaping, but that landscaping, I guess what you're saying, could be shrubs, not necessarily trees.
With it, and the 10 feet is typically an important number because with 10 feet, you can expect some sizable trees, we call them shade trees,
Right.
to thrive and to survive well in that kind of environment. So among other things, at some point in the future, conceivably, not only do you have a 6-foot wall, but maybe you have some tree canopy up above as well that helps enhance that buffer. I am a big fan and proponent of that. I think it's really, really important. And at the same time, I'm glad that we have this tool in the zoning code so that at least you as the council can decide if that's critical everywhere or not. I think other things that this site offers in terms of how it's designed right now, personally, I think missing that landscaping right there is an acceptable trade-off for other things that.
Then can you point out what those other things
Huh?
are that you're super impressed with, just so I know?
So this area will be landscaped, and that will have trees in it. There will be trees in these parking islands in the parking lot, as well as along the majority of the frontage out here.
Right.
So from where the property is now to where it will be when it's developed, should this go forward in this fashion, I think it's a significant leap forward in terms of not only beautifying the corner, but the community. And I think that really is an enhancement for adjacent neighbors as well. I guess that's how I look at it, as kind of just bigger picture. And I have to say also that in terms of the things that we've talked about potentially landing on this site over the years, and this is a use that creates some challenges when you have a drive-through, with a restaurant like this. But I think this use is preferred to some other things that conceivably could go on property that's general plan commercial. So that is kind of also part of my thinking.
Dave, the current sidewalk that's here is moving south, right? That sidewalk doesn't stay, everything gets shifted.
It's my understanding.
Any other questions, comments? So to make a motion, if we're going to include, do we have to include what Councilman Marshall wants to have in there?
It's
Or is
really
that-
helpful to do that, yes.
Good, then I'm going to let him make that
I
motion.
can feel it coming this way. Okay, I'll give it a shot. So I move to approve ordinance Z15-21 Slim Chickens, that the proposed zone change to the Z2, oh my goodness. Come on. Did you just correct me?
Nope.
To the C2 zone, with the development enhancement overlay to be approved based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions. Finding number one, that the proposal is consistent with the city's general plan. use designation, that the proposal conforms to the findings described in the development enhancement overlay, and 3, that a road dedication plat with right-of-way dedicated on 10th South be provided to the city.
10th North. Is that covered? Are you good with that?
10th North.
I said.
You said south.
I did. This is north.
It's north.
1,000 north.
If that doesn't work, let me know. Okay.
Okay, I've got a motion by Councilman Marshall,
Second.
second by Councilman Beck. This will be a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Okay, that approved. Is that okay with you, Mr. our Boy Scout here? Have you ever eaten at a Slim Chickens? Okay, well, you know, you should get a bucket full for sitting through all this council meeting. So we want to recognize our one Boy Scout here. You doing this for a merit badge? Yeah. Yeah, good man.
Nice work.
Keep it up, keep it up. This will be the hardest thing. Once you get done, everything else is cake. So,
Give him a gun, chief.
all right, thank you. Let's move on to new business. Johnson subdivision, proposed preliminary plat approval request for master plan development in the R115 zone, including 53 lots located at 1,000 South, 3,400 East.
One more time, thank you, Mayor. This property was annexed fairly recently, within the last year, and at the time of annexation, R115 zoning was assigned to the property. So this is a little bit easier than subdivision approvals might often be, where they're accompanied by a proposed zone change. In this case, the applicant is simply proposing to develop the property as a master plan development. That's why you're the land use authority instead of the planning commission. As proposed, the project meets all of the city's criteria for master plan developments in the R115 zone. Makes it easy for us as we review it. Really, the only thing that I would say is unique at all about the property is the fact that there is an existing cell tower on the property right here, hence some of the language that you see on proposed conditions of approval that have to do with some enhancements that we believe are important to make at the time of development, just so that that's a good neighbor to property owners, to homeowners as they build and live in the neighborhood. So that being said, both the Planning Commission and the Development Review Committee have reviewed this and recommended that it be approved, ultimately based on the finding that we have there in the staff report and subject to those conditions as well. And that's all that I have.
Any questions or comments? Seeing, go ahead.
There's, the only access is on 3400 South? 3400
Two
East.
accesses, one here, sorry, 3400 East
Okay.
is right here. I don't remember the south of that. We can get that really quickly though.
So that's there, 10th's there? Whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
This is here.
Then you got another one at the bottom.
Somewhat difficult to tell, but
And you know what? I am not sure that there is a road there.
There's not right
There's
now.
not a road there.
South, DR ordinance.
Right, so this is not constructed either. There's no road south of this one, but we anticipate that that's going to be in place in a matter of months. So let's just look at this from a worst case scenario kind of perspective, which is probably important. The just over 50 homes that they have here, our ordinance would allow for the majority of those to be constructed with just one access. But there would be a limit on the number of homes that they could build until some other access to the property is provided.
Okay, any other?
A limit less than 53?
Yes, 35. And Chris, maybe you could help me with this. 35 in a temporary situation. Oh, sorry. Or is it 50 on temporary, 35 on permanent?
Yeah, so this would allow 50 homes because it would be considered temporary because they have that access
So,
I like that.
almost all of them.
Obviously, the developments are gonna develop together, we're bringing utilities there, so it's not gonna be.
Right.
It sure looks like that's how it's playing out, yeah.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve Johnson subdivision, proposed preliminary plat approval request for a master plan development in the R115 zone, including 55 lots located at 1,000 south, 3,400 east, based on those findings listed.
A motion by Councilmember Beck,
Second.
second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, let's go down to B, integrating supply agreement and amendment with General Parts Company doing business as AAPA Auto Parts, Napa.
Yeah, so IBS, which also has Napa, it would be placing a supply house at our shop. This has been done by several other cities in Utah. They've all had a really good experience with this, and not only will it be much more convenient to get much of our supplies, but we anticipate it saving us between $60,000 and $80,000 a year.
Great. Questions, comments?
Is it a full shop or is it just a vending machine?
Full shop, they'll have an employee there. At one point, they were talking about having 2 employees there, but they have scaled it back to 1. But they'll have access to have runners coming from other shops in the area, so.
Cool.
Did we bid this? Did they come to us? How did?
So there's a national bid that we're piggybacking on. There's not a lot of places that do this. In fact, this is the only place we are aware of, and so we did work out a proposal that matched that national bid that the other cities are using.
So they bid on it. You had a procurement process to arrive to this point.
Yeah, and a lot of the bidding occurs as they acquire the goods to sell us, if that makes sense. But no, this didn't go through an RFP process where several different companies that do this. This is the only company that we know of that does this.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve integrated supply agreement and amendment with Genuine Parts Company doing business as Napa Auto Parts.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Resolution 21-18, water to be transferred to the city upon development.
Okay, what we're proposing is just 2 main changes to this ordinance. The rest are kind of grammatical, but the first one is we're adding 8.4% to the water right exaction that we have on residential development only. The reason is a study that was done on our parks showed that that's how much parkland is that we have per residential unit. And so what we're trying to do is capture enough water right to supply water to those parks, assuming that with our impact fee facilities plan, we're going to keep about the same amount of park space per residential unit. We need to make sure we acquire the water that's needed to water that park space. We only exact water in this instance, and so we added that to the water right exaction. And so if normally they would give us 1 acre foot of water for the house, they would now give us 1.08 4 acre feet of water. So the second change is with non-residential commercial businesses that use a lot of indoor water. They come to us and they tell us how much water they anticipate using. And then we based our water right exaction on how much water they tell us they're going to use. What we do with our impact fees, which is under a similar situation, is we say, well, after a year or 2 years or every year thereafter, we audit that. And we just kind of make sure it's right. If they say, well, we're going to use 5 acre-feet of water a year and they use 10, that has a big impact on our system. And so we audit that, and if it's more than 10% difference, then we make the correction, and we say, well, you're using a lot more water than you said you were. You really should acquire that water and dedicate that to city, so we make sure that we have enough water going forward. And so it just mirrors what our impact fee ordinance says, but where the water right exaction is not an impact fee, we're just copying that in there. So, any questions?
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 21-18, amending the water to be transferred to the city upon development.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This also is a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck. Aye. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Marshall.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
All righty. Utah County, Spanish Fork, Center Street, US 6 Pedestrian Trail Agreement Amendment, Interlocal Cooperation with MAG.
Okay, so I have one explanation for the next 2 items. And basically, what we had is a situation where we had some MAG, Mountain Lands Association of Government funding for a pedestrian underpass or tunnel at US 6 and Center Street. We were very concerned about this when Diamond Fork Junior High was transitioning to be a middle school, and some of its boundary was going to go across US 6, and we applied for MAG funding and received that. At one point, this was turned over to UDOT. UDOT was actually helping to fund this project. Spanish Fork City was helping to fund this project. Nebo School District was helping to fund this project. And that project in these times started to escalate in price up to 3 times the cost of originally anticipated. And the 3 organizations did not have the funds to do that. Also, Nebo School District changed their boundaries for this middle school so that they didn't cross over US 6. And so that created less of a need to build this tunnel. And frankly, there just wasn't funds to build it anyway after those costs escalated. What these 2 agreements do is they transfer the $1.7 million that MAG had anticipated putting towards that other project, transfers it to our Center Street project, which also went over in costs as we moved some additional houses and had to move the gas pumps there for that gas station. And so what it does is it transfers that funds from that project to a project that we have already expended some city funds on, and kind of keeps us whole on the other project. So the first agreement is between us and the county, because county funds were going to be used for the project for the tunnel project. And then the second agreement is between us and the county for the Center Street project, where we use county funds as well to receive those funds. So one is to exit those funds from the first project, and then the other agreement is to receive the funds to the original project. So any questions on that?
And note that MAG approved all this in our MAG meeting.
Yes, and we appreciate that.
So Chris, you've spent the 1.69 million? It's
Yes.
spent. This is reimbursing us.
Yes,
for-
this is just reimbursing us. We spent a little bit more than that on the Center Street project.
Okay. So we're going to get this 1.6. Where does it then go if we've already?
So it reimburses us. We spent
Goes
that
back
out
in
of
the
our
general
general fund, and that goes back in.
Okay.
Back in the streets.
Yeah.
Goes
Yeah.
back in the street fund?
Yeah.
Okay.
I move to approve Utah County Spanish Fork Center Street US 6 pedestrian trail agreement amendment in a local cooperation MAG.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, go to E, Utah County Spanish Fork City Center Street Project Agreement Amendment.
I move to approve the Utah County Spanish Fork City Center Street Project Agreement Amendment.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
I move we go into closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed? All right, thank you for everyone that was watching, and we appreciate everybody.